been enabled. I would like to welcome everyone, dear colleagues, and thank you for this opportunity to be the first speaker and present my report for the conference. I believe that my presentation will be interesting for you, and if you have any ideas after the presentation, I will appreciate it with respect greatly. My topic today is formation and development of new skills. In my opinion, this is one of the main components of the social development of persons. Having these skills and this multifaceted area of the person depends on a number of qualities, capabilities persons engage and acquire during their lives. Now, the promising education model and content is the following, is the next part of my presentation. When I learned educational processes and how engineers are trained, I had to study educational processes and I'd have to dive deep into this process to be able to understand what education was and what actually the current progress stage of education, further looking at trends and possible specific features of education, and also at self-learning opportunities. My research showed that these models have been evolving. Any system works on principal models, and the educational model was built long ago. We have knowledge, skills, and abilities model which is becoming inefficient. What is the reason? This is because the rate, the pace of developing of the current world, the technologies that are around us are dynamically changing. And this is the reason for these changes. The previous knowledge of our teachers, not all this knowledge is in demand, so we will have to adapt, and people always need to be flexible and adapt to new circumstances. In such situations, we have these new areas in the field of education frameworks. Currently, we see that a lot of people now get knowledge out of schools, and then there is a question why schools are needed. Now, after this internal dialogue, we understand that possibly our models are a bit dilapidated. So with that, we can create a new model. And for that, I found this new solution. This is a new educational process model. This is the new education model, which is the model based on those knowledge, skills, and abilities. And this should be the element involving also CCA, which is cognitive and creative activities. So this is the model which enables us to move to the new level. All the time, new knowledge we get during the educational process are getting old, and we can use this knowledge as a platform for our next steps. The cognitive activity is always with people, and looking at the trees theory, the main theory of this theory are these creative processes. Looking at our classic books, we see books from our masters, trees masters. We see that the main condition is building those new areas, looking at the base of inventions. So we believe that innovation is one of the main sources of progress. So we create those possibilities, those opportunities, and the key fact is to prove the feasibility of this model. We saw that there were new developments in the field of educational processes to be able to kickstart these activities, to be able to prove that this model is feasible, that it can be used and integrated in any educational system, offering opportunities and possibilities to gain standard knowledge, which is verifiable, and also enrich your outlook with new further knowledge. Going forward, I would like to familiarize you with some of my observations, which is related to the Russian language, looking at a person's ability. We have this definition, which I took from the glossary. So this is the definition of the ability. This is a person's ability to use a particular method to address a particular task. In the trees theory, looking at abilities, we believe that this is of course, related to what a person is confronted with and how persons can respond to a particular circumstances, to a particular situation. If there is a complication, then a person should know the algorithm on how to adapt to these conditions. Looking at the Russian language, the Russian word "способность" means this skill, which is semantically rooted in the word "способ", meaning method. So I understand that as the way for people to enrich using these methods. The more methods people have for enrichment, the better, the more efficient this enrichment for people is. And of course, looking at that, we can see that this methods used by people are currently more related and leading persons to better development. Now you see these pictures at the bottom of the slide. They represent different characters working on a particular area, and they are performing particular actions. And of course, to perform these actions, they need dedicated tools and skills, as well as experience. There are two ways of forming new human skills. We have our first way, which is the reproductive traditional way, when we have a teacher having skills, knowledge, and abilities, as well as being able to engage with the audience. So this is a traditional educational framework, which we can see to the left. Now, what are we doing about it? And what is the goal for that? Is the adoption and use of established methods of action by people. So this means that teachers transfer their knowledge to a different person, and this is the method used for that. In this situation, we have a problem, a task, and we need to address this task. And then this teaching method gives you a method to solve this task. We have a second way, which is the creative way. We don't have a ready-made solutions. We have the goal, but the how question, how to address this question. So looking at that in terms of methodology, we don't get a ready-made response solution out of that. So what is the advantage of this second creative way? We have different methods, different books and theses on this topic. Looking at the right area, this theory was started early in the previous century to be able to develop a person's potential. Let's start with our next term, which is problem, which is an undefined task whose solution method is yet unknown to the solver, is referred to as a problem. Now, we see that this is an undefined task. There are two elements to this definition. An undefined task, again, a problem is a complex task. Again, a problem is a Russian word meaning a complicated, a challenging task. We need to make this problem a defined task. So for that, we need to understand the specific features of a problem. So we have some inputs and what needs to be done for a particular problem. So we'll look at this situation, and we need to actually transfer a task from the undefined to the defined task. And for that, we will need to use the dedicated tools, being able to focus on particular events and what are the outputs of these events that are possible. Looking at the trees theory, what are the approaches and algorithms which can be used? The first area, the first step, the first method or way is this exploratory step 1, where we analyze a problem and transform it into a defined creative task that needs to be further solved. So this is what we call the inventive task in Russian. So this is a process involving different steps which are quite specific and which can actually help you transform this task. After defining the task, the second stage is finding a solution for this problem, for this task, and this is the second inventive stage. Looking at the approaches in this area, and focusing on my personal input on how it's done, is that we form those abilities by means of addressing a challenging task. We transform it from an undefined task to a defined task. We look for a solution, and then after that we remove a problem. So we see that the last stage here is the problem gone stage. So, and again, this is the process around this problem solving. I believe that going forward, so this is the way forward for the current educational framework, providing these conditions which will be instrumental for building these abilities. So this is an artificial element to that. We see that this life can give us different opportunities. We can be confronted with undefined tasks. Those undefined tasks can be non-systemic, and they actually do not give the result we might want to receive. Now, the first element is the goal of the learner's educational activity, which is seen by a skill designer. So we need to create an environment for education which will be instrumental for learners to acquire a skill, an ability. So the task of a teacher is to work with learners and transfer those skills and abilities to this person. So there should be some problem that needs to be presented, and this is the goal of the teacher, to help a learner to address this task. The goal of the learner is to use the knowledge to solve the problem, and using the knowledge, a learner can address and solve a particular problem. Teachers can work with dedicated methods to be able to form various methods with those specific areas, and they can use these methods to research and study the information at hand. What are the stages to this process? So we have different abilities. We have a educational problem, then it is followed by this cognitive activity, then followed by finding a new method of solving the problem. And again, the next stage is successful problem solving. When a person gets to this stage, then there is this experience, and with a higher frequency, this will then transform to a skill. A few example methods which can be used. There were several methods used. There were different publications. And of course, I can tell you that this is something which is self-sufficient. There is this very magic word in trees, which is the dictionary words memorization method. This is a self-sufficient process when you acquire new knowledge. So this is a method for memorizing words. There is another method which is just wonderful. It's called the B method. It works with grammatic rules created by learners. Those pupils actually derive those rules themselves, and they can use this skill to be able to transform this research model to any objects and to any surrounding objects in the real environment. The next example is being able to develop a complex of psychological processes with this extended definition. Again, this is the mnemosine method. I recommend that you look at this method as well. There is another specific method when pupils can understand the way how graphs can be created and built, and this is a method which is widely used, and I'm happy that many teachers use these methods, and they train pupils and also grown-ups to find those out-of-the-box, non-standard solutions and images which can further be transformed as objective realities.
Учащийся исследователь. Вот здесь вот тоже самостоятельную исследовательскую деятельность проводят ребята, и когда поступает уже потом в вузы, педагоги вузовские, они спрашивают, а где вас так обучали? Они говорят, мы считали это нормально, условия. Так что вот тот опыт, который ребята получают, будучи учащимися
So that very
он помогает,
experience which was gotten by the kids as researchers, it still helps them in their professional activity. So right now, skill development methods, it's absolutely new material, and it's connected with those things. Morphological analysis method, it's pretty good one. I rather use it very often to structurize information, and from this information you can get new quality. So I use this very morphological analysis, and I found how to form a sequence of the tests to get advanced breakthrough ideas which were not created before. So the skills are like that. The first one is a formation of the skills. It's pretty known stage. And the second one is to achieve a known goal using a different method. For example, if we have some kind of deficiency or some tool is broken, but the goal is to be achieved. And the third stage is when we have to identify and achieve unknown goals using known methods. So you are looking for the non-standard objects which are not in the primary format. So here you have to find objects, you have to adapt to it, you have to improve the tool, and the highest level is the development of the skills, identify and achieve known goals, create new methods. Example of the test. I don't have much time to go, so pretty simple task, inflate a balloon. Well, it seems to be pretty easy, right? By using your mouth, inflating a balloon. But if you are looking for some creative method, according to the recommendation, so you inflate a balloon using a different method, not by your mouth. So you are looking for some special tool, and you try to understand what kind of resources are behind this tool. So this balloon has to be inflated anyways. And then you have to inflate another object. It doesn't matter which, so not necessarily a ball. So here we change the object, and the tool could be changed for achieving goal. And the highest level of the achievement, in my mind, is bringing air into objects that require air. So you have to find this object first. For example, when you will set up air supply to the underground pocket or to submarine without its surfacing. So, for example, yeah, and the second one, as I said, air supply to underground pocket with people trapped inside. So here are examples. And the second example is to make a hole in a board. So you see, pretty simple task, but it's been transferred into creative abilities and skills. So I won't go into details about that. You can get acquainted with this information afterwards, or you can ask your questions and I will answer them. But right now, I would like to go to another examples. For example, delivery cargo by truck. Actually, you have some time to go, another 15 or even 20 minutes, so you can go. Even more than that. So delivery cargo by truck, you see. Actually, we can leave like 10 minutes for Q&A, right? Good. So then it seems to be that it's pretty simple task. And by the way, you can try yourself. Any activity, any action, short one, considering the algorithm with what offered by me. When you know the goal and you know the method, but then you try different methods to achieve this very goal. And the second thing, when you have different goals with the known method, So you see, in business, we know that technologies which are being developed in the companies, one of the branches of the development of the companies is in the fact when the technology which is known has been transferred to another object. So it's one of the very important tests. So when you determine goals and methods, and in my mind, talking about stage 4, if we have such a training meeting step by step, so if we will embed it somewhere, so it's one of the options for the kids for their competition when they're given very simple tasks, and then they will use some kind of transfers and they will develop new concepts. But if we set up the task for socialization, how to help people in different aspects, so in different specters, so then it will have some kind of applied usage. All these actions and considerations, maybe in the first place it will be some kind of a concept, but it will be separate projects, and along the growing up of the kids and of them being more adults, so then we'll have some forms and registrations on the level of the patents and to defend the ideas and then development and etc. So it will be some kind of a startup which is on the based on the collective and personal ideas. Some kind of a business activity is an option. So in my mind, this very example, which is to be shown by me, it's rather unusual. When I was writing it down, I was rather surprised myself. So I didn't have such a thought before, but it came to me only in the kind of order of the preparation of the conference. For example, draw a particular image on paper using a pencil. So you can use pencil or different other tools, some kind of a special spheres on paper. For example, the second stage is to draw a particular image on paper using a different method. If your pencil is broken, for example, so then you will get necessary result using completely different conditions. So it's rather creative idea when you draw a specific image using ball pen, marker, crayon, paintbrush, and etc. So you are looking at the operation of those tools, what is the interaction of it, influence, so you can have all follow-up knowledge line which shape the world view of the children. And the second stage is to draw a particular image on another object. So I was setting this task when we had to draw a particular image on a rock, utensil, window pane. So it could be a more detailed work than on the grain or plant or a skin, then fence, roof, graffiti, whatever, graffiti, then sky, water, surface. And when I came to the point of painting some image in the sky, so then I was thinking about it, how to do it. So there are special holographic fountains, but to establish and fix this image, yeah, sometimes they do it with the airplanes when they kind of eject some kind of streams, flows of special paints and fumes, whatever. So the spectrum is rather various, but how to paint it on the on water, you see, so water surface? That's a good question. Of course, you can get other objects, and the task will be a bit different. So this fourth level happened to be rather interesting in my vision. Maybe you will have another perception. So to draw a particular image of an abstract concept, draw a particular image of an abstract concept such as activity, fancy, delight, design, charisma. So for the person to write down this very image, the defendant has to understand the essence of it, like internal content of it. So, and then he has to graphically demonstrate it, how to shape it correctly without losing essence of it. So after that, the person goes into the depth of etymology, of the depth of the essence and content of those concepts. So that's why development and skills are not only for drawing, but also it's another philosophical skill, philosophical attention to those images which have to be shaped. And now I'm coming down to the conclusions. So here we propose authors' approach for formation and development of new skills, distinguished by the fact that the learner faces a pre-designed educational problem, and then problem-solving skill set is widened by the deliberate search. So if you take some action from those for yourself, and then you go down through those stages, you will see internal development. When you have to find some objects and goals, in regards to new goals, you have to find new means, and on and on. And of course, at this point, the fourth one, the outline approach improves the educational process through the learner's collaborative, cognitive, and creative activity. Maybe it will be some kind of a delay on the level of adaptation, understanding essence of it and content. But after that, when the skill of examination, of supervision, of attention has been developed, then it will give some sustainable perception to the person, some new association with the skills. For example, skills of contemplating of outer world, of environment. And when the person is the creator and activator of such movements, so then it forms your personality. When we take like 3-4 positions out of this list, in this case, the personality will be rather creative. And now we have such a task. I'm very grateful for those people who made English translation of my text. Here you see translated instead of the word method. They understood my coded sense of it, and they found rather a very good phrase which opens the understanding of it. And for those who are participants of today's conference and listeners of my speech, of my report, so here you will have this cognitive creative task. I gave you 3 words, so intermediate 3 words are to be found for you to have some kind of a reasonable word combination. So when you use abbreviation, you have several letters and you form the word. This is for your self homework, kind of that. So that thing I wanted to say according to the content which we have. I hope that it was rather understandable. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we have some questions in our chat box, and then participants can ask by voice as well. For example, such comments. We know this art, ancient art of writing on water surface is called a brew. I don't know this word. I don't know either, but thank you very much for this art. Yeah. And then for another person, as the person to transfer abstract images in the brain of the consumer. So maybe it is in regard to the sky or water surface drawing. This is like a comment. And now the question, what kind of methods are to be used for the engagement of the learners in the process? So at first we have to understand, what do we want? We want attention. So this is in the foundation of everything, attention. Formation of this attention. Back then, when I was engineer, when I was conducting the first lesson, without any experience and methodology, but I had this understanding of the desire and wish. And then in the long run, when I've accumulated experience of the development of the creative imagination, it happened to be that the lessons were conducted in the different time slots. It was like first lesson or the second lesson or the last lesson of the day. And I paid attention to such a thing. After break time, kids are coming down to the classroom in different state. Someone didn't finish his apple, some were kind of running back and forth and very so excited. But I had very short time slot for the lesson. So I thought how to engage kids and to set an order in their minds and souls for such a training. And so I was not involved only in pedagogical aspects, but also psychological aspects. And I found a psychological process which is called attention. So in very short time, I have to get common general attention. And after that, I could manage the attention, I could manage the processes. How can I do it? And I will tell you about this method. How I resolve this issue. So at first I was standing in the classroom and I was silent. And I had little object in my...
Okay, it can be a ball or a piece of staple. So again, so this position of the hand like that. So we have the kids there from the corridor and taking their seats, taking their places. And again, I am standing before them, and this is just nonsense. So which happens, a teacher always usually says that it can happen, but you just need to concentrate your attention, and there is the synergy which is created based on that. So there are some pupils or learners from the start who just stand and wait, and they are actually pointing at that. So there is this involvement through physiology, and this is the key condition. A teacher needs to use these methods, use these rules to be able to demonstrate all that. If there is another person moving and not corresponding to the normal area, I won't continue my lesson until all my class stands in such a position, and this is what we have out of that. So we have these areas. There is a class with some impact, having impact on some other learners, pupils who are not concentrated. With that, we can actually hold their attention, and this is a dedicated framework which is created. Through that, we address just two problems, two tasks. The first is to preserve the level we're in, so having this status for a company, for a person, for a state, for a company. And the second task is reaching the next level and looking at trees, at tips, and this is how it works in this area to be able to progress to the next level. Actually, those innovation processes are rooted in this area, and again, attention needs to be focused and drawn to people themselves. I'd like to draw another example of grown-ups. When I was was a foreman of a construction team, I started looking at the sketches, and I saw many mistakes in the sketches, in the drawings. So besides, instead of going home at 5 or 6 o'clock, I used to come home at 8 p.m. and I just then gathered all the colleagues, telling that they need to be more attentive to drawings, but then time passed and no changes followed. I have a lot of experience. If there is a question about human character, then there are three ways to address it. The first one is technical, the second one is the organizational way, and the third way is the legal way, or a combination of these three ways. So the first is technical, so actually all these changes are related to the technical progress, and of course there is this element which might be the weakest in this area, and the weakest element in this area is human, is the person. How I address this area, this problem, I reported to my manager to be able to give bonuses to people working in the right way, and he was like, you need to address this area altogether. And then I addressed this problem using trees. One more question. Have you tried in your educational projects, have you tried using any other ways to develop the creative, inventive ways? This is a question from Mr. Trondin. So have you used any methods developed by Mihalko? No, I cannot refer to this particular area. I can only speak of my own results, and this is what I can present here. I had a research project, and the goal of the project was not just collecting information within my scope, but to systematize this information and create a thesis out of it. And I used the information also to make my intellectual step. This was my goal. And there was one lady, which is the example of this area. There was this 7 miracles of the world, and the content she found there, she systematized it, and it turned out that there were some elements lacking, some structures were missing. These were the structures about the emergence of the 7 miracles of the world. This is interesting. Do we have any more questions? Thank you, Marat.